I will tell you something. Johnny Major's been a friend for a long time. Back in 1958, Paul Hornung played at Notre Dame. Their record was 2-8. And Johnny Majors came in second in the biggest steal for Paul Hornung for the Heisman Trophy ever. He was a great running back, and he's from a great, great football family. Lost some of his guys in a bad situation of a train deal, but he's been a friend for a long time, and I appreciate him being on. Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, my friend. We'd like to see you come back in town with your plaid coat on, running up down the sidelines of basketball, because Mary Lynn and I never missed it when you came to Tennessee to play. And you were a terrific coach and been a great friend a long time. A couple of quick things about that. That was 1956. Hornung won the Heisman, and came in second. And in 1965, my brother Bill was killed with two other coaches.
Yeah.
They just picked him up going to work. They just tied him. You'd be interested in this. I think Alabama people would. It was the Monday morning before daylight after Tennessee tied Alabama 7-7.
Right.
And the great Snake Stapler, who was a great quarterback, but he was only a sophomore. And Alabama had the ball in Tennessee, I believe, around their 10-yard line, tied 7-7. And it was fourth down, and Snake threw the stop the clock play down, and that was the end of the game. And Jackie Sherrill, who I hired on my first staff and worked for me he worked for me 5 years at Iowa State and 3 at Pittsburgh, and took my place when I came to Tennessee. He was on that team too, and he said, Coach Bryant busted the door down in the locker room, but it was locked and couldn't get in. But anyway, Bill and they just picked Bill up, and we're going to work before daylight after 7-7 time. I'm sure they were excited because it was a new staff at Tennessee that year. And anyway, they picked him up, and the train hit him before daylight. There was no stop flashing light, just a crossbar, the cross sign. And killed all three of them. Bill instantly, he was in the back seat, and that was the biggest tragedy in our life, without question.
Sure.
My partner, but he was his third boy. My mother and father's. I'm the oldest of 5 boys, and I and Bill, who got killed in the middle one, and Bob, the young one, all played at Tennessee, and Joe, the second one, played at Florida State, and Larry, the fourth one, played for our dad at Sewanee. So that's pretty much it.
Well, your dad was a great coach, no doubt about it. Swanee, he was a terrific coach. I've got my son Barry, who knows more about this than I do, on the show with us today. He does the show with me every day. But I wanted to ask you, and I don't think this is a question that you don't want to answer. And I think it's an okay question. If it's not, don't answer it. When did you hire Philip Fulmer, and why did you hire him?
I hired Phil Fulmer as assistant coach the 4th year I was at Tennessee. I had a great offensive line coach, Joe Avanzano, who played at Florida State. And was terrific. I never had any better coach in any position than he. And I hired him at Iowa State my second year as freshman coach, and moved him up to offensive line coach the last 3 years out there. Then I took him to Pittsburgh, where he was the offensive line coach for 4 years, and it was 3 years at Tennessee before he took the head coaching job at Oregon State after the 79 season. And I hired Fulmer in 1980. He was assistant at Vanderbilt. I hired him, and he was my coach until I was let go at the University of Tennessee. After the 3 best years in a row in my entire career in 1989, 90, and 91, were the 3 best in a row, even though he won the national championship with a 12-0 record at Pittsburgh. We'd gone from 6-3-1, 7-4, and 8-4 in the first 3 years, and we won 12-0 my last year, the only undefeated, untied team in the country that year. And then I came to Tennessee shortly after the Sugar Bowl and coached the Hawaii Bowl, the Hula Bowl out in Hawaii, and came around back from there to Tennessee as coach. I brought my entire staff, I brought my entire staff that I wanted to bring with me. So I hired Fulmer from Vanderbilt. He was a teammate of my brother Bob's down in Winchester, Tennessee.
Right.
Winchester is the county seat of Huntland in Franklin County, which is Huntland where my dad coached those great teams. And 4 of us played for him 2 years apart. 2 of us played the same backfield for 7 years, and we were 71-1. We won. We were the winningest team in the state of Tennessee. Huntland is 30 miles directly north of Huntsville, Alabama, on the John Hunter Highway, and it's 5 miles into the Tennessee state line. And that's where we were. We were all from Lynchburg, Tennessee, where they make Jack Daniels, but we moved to Huntland my sophomore year, and I'm the oldest, and we had 71-1, the winningest team in the state. Big schools, little schools, middle-class schools, and there were no classifications at that time. Then my dad went to Sewanee that year after his 70 wins, 1 loss and 1 tie. After Bill graduated, he led the state in scoring his senior year, and I led it all 3 years. And Joe had gone to Alabama his freshman year under Ears Whitworth in 55, and then he transferred to Florida State. And Larry went to Swan and played for my dad on Swan's second undefeated team in the 20th century, which my dad coached both of them in 58 and 63.
Barry, go ahead.
We're talking with Coach Johnny Majors. Coach, one of the great things about Alabama is their fans, and one of the worst things about it is the passion of the fans. And the same thing with Tennessee. One of the great things is that the passion of the fans, and sometimes that passion can turn negative. Can you just kind of maybe comment on what's happened up there in Knoxville over the last month?
Well, not a lot. Because frankly speaking, nobody asked me my opinion. I don't waste any time giving them my opinion. But I do support. I do want the teams to win. But 3 of us played at Tennessee, and I have an allegiance to them. Even though I was let go here in an unfair situation, the people have treated me very well when I came back 12 years ago from staying in Pittsburgh 15 years when I went back up there the second time. So I have people in this state treat me great, and they treated our family great. You know, when we lose, we all get some bad comments, of course, but the people here have been great to me. And I like to see those young men win wearing the orange shirt. About the situation, it was pretty much a mess. I thought John Curry was a very impressive, strong-minded, would have been an excellent leader. I had nothing to do with the hire, who they got, anything else. And should I know this, Greg Schiano. First, I want to say I think that Coach Pruitt will be successful from what I read about him. And I read about him, and I haven't seen him. I haven't met him yet. I don't think I've met him before. He's out on the road recruiting. I did leave a note on his desk the day before yesterday because I will support him and help him if I can, whatever is legal. But I think he's going to sound like he's getting a good staff as well. But his background, you know, when you come through Nick Saban's programs, you've got to be a pretty damn good coach because Nick Saban, I think, is the best in the business right now. And I've got to be careful because I'm the president of the Nike Coach of the Year tennis, but nobody's better, I should say, than Nick Saban. And you're going to learn something there a lot. Not a lot, in my opinion. I know Nick pretty well, and I respect him greatly. And he's got Coach Pruitt's got a very good background. He played for, I don't know how much he played, but he played for Boots Donnelly, the head coach at Middle Tennessee State, who's a good friend of mine and a very good coach. He was maybe one of the 2 most successful coaches. We've got a new one now who's doing a great job there in Middle Tennessee State's history. And he also was on Gene Stallings' squad, I believe, at Alabama. And he's a very good coach and a great friend of mine. And interestingly, speaking of Horning and Gene Stallings and I are all 82 years old. And the Heisman Trophy, and I'm not crying about it, the Heisman Trophy started the year we were born. 1935 was the first Heisman winner, and Horning is the only one winning on a losing team in 82 years. But I came in, it was the closest second in history at that time. And I didn't get all built up, and I didn't. I wasn't devastated, but I was disappointed when it was all over. But Horning was a very good football player, so I can't second guess Horning. That's for that. I'm sure we became friends through the years. But that's this other thing. I don't know all what was underneath who was. I read a lot about it, followed it, of course, and the chancellor. And I think Jimmy Haslam, who was a family-owned pilot, all met with, I understand, with Coach with Mr. Curry, and hired him at the governor's mansion in Knoxville, who is Bill Haslam, brother to Jimmy Haslam, who owns the Cleveland Browns, and their family owns Pilot Oil Company, and the biggest one in the country, I believe. They met with Coach Mr. Curry from Kansas State privately, offered the job, and then she ends up firing him maybe 8 months later or something like that. So I don't know all the under whatever the stuff was behind the scenes or anything like that. So we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you this: I think anybody with the count can add and subtract. Could be an athletic director there now. They've got one of the greatest softball programs in the country with a man and wife who's been successful. They're normally in the national championship picture every year. And Holly Warlick, basketball coach, has had the best year maybe that she's ever had. And they're going to have a good young team, it looks like, in women's basketball. A new track coach is supposed to be real good. A new baseball coach is supposed to be very good. And got an excellent, outstanding basketball coach. I'm sure Wimp, you know him.
He worked for me for a year, Johnny.
I'm a dead player. I didn't know that, but yeah. I'm really impressed with Coach Park. I was impressed with him the first time I met him. My dad coached football, basketball, and baseball. He was very good at all of it. I know a little bit about basketball, and I loved it. But meeting him, I walked by his office to say hello. He come on in there and sit down, and he's an everyday guy. But he's got a great look in his eye, and he works him. I've watched him practice. He is really good. So they've got a very strong program right now, and a complete athletic program. So it's been taken about it.
Johnny, with great tradition that Tennessee has in football, don't make it. If you're older, you certainly realize, Bob, you know it when you were there and so forth. But it's also a very difficult place to recruit to. Memphis is a long way from Knoxville. The people over in Memphis, most of the time, the students are not very good students, so the players are not. It's a difficult place to recruit to, don't you feel? Even though you got great tradition.
Well, you hit a very good point. And I, of course, was recruited to come here back in 1952, my senior year of 52 season, and recruited to come here. But here's the uniqueness about the Tennessee job. One reason it's a great job. Yes, and particularly since integration, the Deep South schools has an advantage over Tennessee without question, because you have so many outstanding black athletes, African Americans in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and let's see, one more: Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana State, and gosh, there's one more I can't think of right now. I don't know why I can't. But anyway, one thing about Tennessee, Kentucky's the only team north of us in the Southeastern Conference. Historically, Tennessee has gotten the players from East Tennessee and Mississippi and Middle Tennessee pretty much 90%. And Memphis was challenging to recruit because, like you say, it's a long way away. It's about 400 or 500 miles away, and it's right on the Mississippi River, bordering Arkansas and Mississippi. So, but the one thing about Tennessee, we could always go north and east, going back to General Leland's days in the 30s and 40s and early 50s. And, for example, when I came to Tennessee in 1953 season, They signed 127 freshmen. We were the last group to sign under General Nealon, but he retired in February after we signed in December, and there were over 100 reported. There were 4 from Washington, D.C., 4 from the Boston area. We had people from Connecticut, 2 or 3. So we could always go north and east. Kentucky is north of us, but we could jump across Kentucky because they cannot recruit with us in the north and the east. So we go up there and they pick off 2 or 3 from 4 or 5 states that go Ohio. We jump right across Kentucky into Ohio, and we're going to beat them because of our tradition and facilities through the years. And we'll pick off a couple, maybe not that Alabama wants. We'll pick up 2 or 3 in Alabama, maybe. We'll pick up 3 to 4 or 5 in Georgia and Florida, 2 or 3 in Florida on the starting team at Tennessee. My backup is Howard Carter, one of the best athletes on the team. He was a track man, football player, but he was my understudy the year behind me. Our starting wingback was Bill Anderson from Bradenton, Florida. Carter was from another town right next to Bradenton. And Tommy Bunson, our starting fullback, was from Gainesville, Florida. Florida didn't offer him a scholarship. Tennessee did. But the point is, we could recruit in other states, 2 or 3 from those good southern states, and get middle Tennessee and East Tennessee. That's the reason we can have championships at the University of Tennessee.
We're talking with Coach Johnny Majors. Coach, last question here. Just kind of talk about the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, maybe a couple of your memories about because it seems to go in cycles. Tennessee will get a streak going now. Alabama has a streak going. Just kind of talk a little bit about your what you think about this rivalry.
Well, I think it's a unique one. I don't think there's any rival in the country that's any better and more intense, including the Ohio State-Michigan cross-state rivalries. It's colorful. And to me, I'll always regret when they made the Michigan team wear whites. I'll never forget the first 3 college games. The first 3 times I saw Tennessee play, I was a sophomore in high school. Saw them play Alabama at Knoxville. Tennessee was 10-0 that year. They beat them 13-9. Beat Alabama. Number 2, the next year I saw him play when I was a junior. John Hunter, a grocer there in town, in Hutland, drove me down. It was just him and my dad and he and another man came up when I was a sophomore and as a junior. My dad and I came up to see Alabama play, and Tennessee won all 3 games. But the red jerseys, the Crimson Tide, and the orange jerseys was really colorful and very exciting. And I, fortunately, played in the rivalry 3 years. I started my first game, Nick, my first game. And as a sophomore, I had a lot to do with our game that day. We started against Kimmy Wade, the All-SEC tailback, was hurt. And I started, and I threw 3 interceptions. And Albert Elmore was a junior.
Yeah,
I was a sophomore.
no, Albert.
He had a great day, and they beat us 27-0. But the next 2 years, we shut them out down there. My junior year, of course, I started my junior and senior year. We beat them 20-0, beat them 24-0 up here. And for your information, I and the middle brother Bill and Bob all came in. We were the only 3 brothers to ever punt at Tennessee in the history of the school. Bill and I were triple threaters. We punted, passed, and were tailbacks and ran 7 plays. Yeah. Played defense. And Bob Majors ran 2 punts back against Alabama about 1970. We got a picture of one of them running, Coach Stein in the background on the sidelines. He had 2 touchdowns on the punt returns against Alabama. One of them was called back because of a penalty. I had 2 against Chattanooga. My sophomore year, one of them was called back with a penalty, so we're the only 2 brothers. Also, that ever returned 2 punts and a touchdown, and both of us had one of them called back in the game. Opposite Alabama, but so Coach Bryant and Coach Bowden White were 2 of the greatest coaches in history. And Gene, of course, Stallings didn't play at Alabama, but Coach Bryant had those great teams. Yeah. I didn't play against him, but I coached against him, and so he had that 11-game winning streak against Tennessee, at the longest in the school's history. And we stopped it his last year, very fortunately. And I'll never forget what he said. He was not a man of a lot of words, but we beat him here in Knoxville 35-28 in a high-scoring game, and the players carried me off the field on my shoulders, which Coach Bryant was carried off many, many times on his shoulders. And as I slid down off his shoulders, Coach Bryant shook his hand, and vice versa. And he said, Johnny, you had a good game plan. I said, thank you, Coach Bryant. And when I saw Coach Bryant, when I was assistant coach, two things. He would always return my call when I became head coach at Iowa State. He and Darrell Royal would would return my calls when I needed some advice. I called my dad first and foremost, and I called Frank Boyles, who I coached for at Arkansas, and I called Coach Barry Bryant. He always called me back, and when I see him on the elevator at the coaches' convention or at the SEC meeting, as soon as I get on the elevator, he'd say, Johnny, how your mother and daddy, how your mama and daddy doing? But he visited my brother Bob and tried to recruit Bill. Alabama didn't offer a scholarship. I was offered a scholarship amongst everybody else, including Auburn. So anyway, he was a great coach, and people that played for him had a great experience.
Well, I will tell you something. This interview right here, we're gonna save forever because because I will tell you something. It's unbelievable. The scores and so forth that you remember. Of course, I remember a lot of the stuff you talk about, most all of it, and it's something we'll keep forever. So I appreciate you being on. And I tell you what, when at Jimmy Raines' banquet, I'm gonna get you an extra dessert.
You'll have something. You'll have something to pull my string with.
I'll pull your string.
If I walk in with a big head, I know I'll have to get a smaller size of hat.
I'll take care of you. It's always near your birthday, and I'll take care of you. Thank you, Johnny.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
You're a great friend. Thank you.